Hey guys, how's it going? I'm Chef Matt.
And I'm Chef Hollywood.
Today we're going to be making meatballs and spaghetti. So it's very similar to the pasta bolognese that we did a few weeks ago, except it is not going to be a meat sauce. We're actually making meatballs. What you'll need for this is going to be a stock pot for your pasta with water, another pot for your marinara sauce that we're going to make with the tomato that we gave you, a bowl for mixing the meat, and a sheet tray for cooking the meat. You've got some Parmesan cheese, your seasoning packet here, some Italian breadcrumb, your tomato base, ground beef, and an onion. Also, you'll need either some olive oil, pan spray, and or butter. Any of these will work. Whatever you have in your kitchen will be fine. Alright, your first step is we're going to go ahead and get our marinara started. So we're going to cut our onion, just like I've shown you guys before. Just going to cut the end off, leave the root in, that's going to hold it together for you, and then peel the first couple layers of the skin off. Once you've done that, you're simply going to take your knife and make small incisions down the onion. Keep your fingers curled. And then you're going to turn the onion sideways and do the same thing. And that'll give you a nice dice. At this point, we want our saucepan that we're going to cook our marinara in to go ahead and start heating up with a little butter or olive oil. And let that get nice and hot. And we're going to toss our onion in there to start building the flavor. Should hear the sizzle. We want to let these cook up for about 1 to 2 minutes. We're just extracting some of the flavor out of it, and then we're going to season it up with our tomato sauce.
Caramelize just a little bit when they start to get translucent. Turn them around so they all, just burn on one side.
Next step is you're going to take your bag of tomatoes. Now this has the juice in there, so we're going to save a little bit of this juice. We don't want the chunks in there. So just pour a little bit out. Try to avoid getting some of the tomato in there. This is going to help bind our meatballs. So about that much, and then the rest can go right in your sauce. And then of course season pretty heavily with the seasoning we gave you. If you'd like to doctor this up a little bit, feel more than welcome to. If you have any seasonings at home that you want to try out or use. And then we're going to reduce the heat and let that simmer while we're cooking our meatballs. Cool, so now to make our meatballs, we have our little bit of tomato that we put in there. We're going to go ahead and add our meat. And if you have a little plastic around your meat, that's fine, just take that off. Throw that away, discard that. We're going to add our breadcrumbs. And of course, we're going to season pretty heavily. And for the breadcrumbs, we want to do probably half of this, and then once we mix it, we'll know if we need to add more. And then of course a little bit of the Parmesan cheese that we have too. Again, go about half. That way you can save some for later, or if we need to add more, we can. And then all you're going to do is wash your hands and start mixing. And what we're looking for here is a consistency that will hold up when we start forming the meatballs. So I can tell we need a little bit more breadcrumb. So I'm going to go ahead and add that to it. Actually, just going to go ahead and add it all. And if you don't do this, the meat will actually kind of fall apart. So we want it firm, hold up in the oven. And just keep kind of working it around until you make one large meatball. So now that we have our meat mixture formed, Chef Hollywood is going to spray our pan down over here. We want to do this to make sure that the meat does not stick to the pan.
Spray it really good. Be liberal. The more you spray it, the less it's going to stick.
We've preheated our oven to 350 degrees. And depending on the size that you make these, it should take about either 15 to 20 minutes. If you make really large meatballs, then they're going to take longer. So all you want to do is kind of grab a little bit. Keep in mind they are going to shrink in the oven when they cook, and just kind of form them with your hands. Make them nice and smooth, make sure they're tight. If there's air mixture in there, then they will fall apart on you. And set it on the tray. And repeat until you've got all of them done.
Keep in mind while you're doing this to check your marinara and your water for your noodles.
Also try to make them all the same size, that way they cook evenly at the same time. So here we have 7. Should be good. You might be able to get 8 if you make them a little bit smaller. I'll take a little bit off of this one. Try to make another one. And then go ahead and pop these straight into the oven at 350 degrees. And set a timer for about 15 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes, that way you can check them and go from there. Okay, so I've just checked on the meatballs and they're looking pretty good. They're starting to brown. So we want to allow a little bit of time for our pasta to cook. The pasta's going to take about 5 to 7 minutes. See, I have the boiling water going. I'm just going to go ahead and drop my pasta in. If you have a smaller pot, it is okay to break the noodles if you need to. You're sauce should be reduced, and that's about the consistency that we want. So I'm going to go ahead and just turn that off. It should stay warm. And then we'll let our pasta cook, and we will pull the meatballs out in about another 5 minutes. Alright, so our meatballs are done. We cooked them for about 10-15 minutes, and they're cooked through. What we're going to do now is we're going to strain the pasta off. Make sure you use pot holders. This water is very hot. Use a colander. Most kitchens should have these. Kind of let that hang out there for a second. Now we're going to turn our sauce back on and get that heated up a little bit. We're basically going to just drop our meatballs into the sauce. Just kind of coat them with the marinara. Give it a little stir. And then turn that off. For plating, go ahead and grab some tongs and pile your spaghetti in the middle there. And we're just going to spoon the sauce over the spaghetti. Of course, make it as neat as possible. Wipe the edges of your plate off, wipe the rim off. And then for garnish, we're going to take the rest of our Parmesan cheese and dust that over top. There you go, spaghetti and meatballs.